Hello and welcome to Musings and Monologues. More than 2 decades back, a friend of mine had jokingly suggested that the world is categorized into two categories, basically PLUs and PLTs. On probing further, she mentioned that PLUs meant people like us, the educated, informed, and initiated minority, people who are like us, and PLTs referred to people like them or the vast majority of the illiterate, uninitiated janta. Unfortunately, over the last 2 decades, the whole definition of PLUs and PLTs has changed dramatically. PLUs now mean the majority of the population, meaning the Hindu majority, and PLTs refer to the minority community existing in India, constituting people who chose not to go to Pakistan despite the divide and chose to stay back in their country, which they thought was an absolute secular democracy till the mid 80s. They, the Hindutva majority, had only two representatives in parliament in the early 80s. That changed to a dramatic 88 post the telecast of two popular epics on Doordarshan, Ramayana and Mahabharata, every Sunday morning, mesmerized an entire population. And this actually put helped the BJP to actuate its propaganda, its vision, by actually harping on the Hindutva majority factor and creating the permanent divide between us and them. The scenario in popular culture post independence till the 80s was quite different. You had celebrated film stars like Dilip Kumar, who was basically Yusuf Khan, K. Asif, Mehboob Khan, these great luminaries from cinema, the most popular of all art forms, the most palatable of all art forms, and you had even people like Naushad composing music and Muhammad Rafi singing songs of reverence, singing Hindutva prayers. In that period, one of the most articulate Muslim writers, lyricists, wrote, "Na Hindu banega, na Musalman banega, insan ki aulad insani banega." You shall never be a Hindu or a Muslim. You are the son of man and you should remain ensconced in your humanity. That changed all in the late 80s, and it was thought politically correct for the middle class in Hindutva, majority of the audience, of the people, to actually assert their rights for the first time, leading to the establishment of the first BJP government under the supremacy of Atal Bihari Vajpayee, who was still even then the moderate face of the BJP. But the Hindutva brigade, with the aggression of an L.K. Advani and his kin, is the force that actually emerged during these troubled times to actually rave and rant about the glory of Hindutva and its preeminence in the context of India. This resulted in a certain case which from 1949 to mid 80s remained in courts, the case of the disputed Ram Janmabhoomi Babri Masjid site. In December 1992, the Hindutva Brigade actually fanned the flames of hatred amongst the Janta and caused the final breakdown of frontiers by the demolition of the Babri Masjid. All this can be rooted right through the telecast of these two epics, Ramayana and Mahabharata, on Doordarshan. It was post that the Hindutva brigade could actually surface and capture the popular imagination of the people. After that, the whole scenario has changed now to becoming a whole concoction of PLUs and PLTs, people like us, the majority, who constantly cite acts of Muslim terrorism. They equate Islam with terrorism, unfortunately, and in the given context, It is a historical truth that the majority of terrorists that have existed in the world since then have been Muslims in their religion. But this does not actually categorize an entire community. This categorizes only a segment of those Islamic fundamentalists who want to actually raise the bogey of religion to actuate their more sinister purposes. But it is misunderstood by the mass, by the Janta, the majority of Hindus. When Narendra Modi and Amit Shah claimed, staked their claim to the throne of Delhi, they had a solid support and could come with an absolute majority in parliament. That was the time when minority communities like Muslims started feeling threatened for the first time around. It did not happen in Atal Bihari's time so much as it happened during the reign of Modi. It was this Hindutva philosophy, this Hindutva belligerence that actually created shock waves amongst the Muslim community. Actually, the whole citing of a very important incident, the Gulbarg apartment massacre incident, which happened in Gujarat, that was held by the then chief minister, who subsequently became the prime minister of the country, Narendra Modi. It was under his administration that Muslims got massacred, got slaughtered. They always have this doubt and they always raise their argument saying that actually Godhra was instigated by the train incidents where Hindu sadhus were butchered. Even if we consider that there were Islamic forces who butchered the Hindus, there could not be a solution like what happened in Gulbarg apartments, where more than 2,500 innocent Muslim families were killed and massacred in the presence of Narendra Modi, acting like Nero, playing the fiddle whilst Rome was on fire. He never invited the army or the police to go and stop this act, this absolute barbaric act, which was the act by the majority. The majority was always secure. This divide has been very ably portrayed in films like Parzania and Firak, who question the very basis of this Hindutva resurgence. It is also reflected in a very recent film, very effectively, a film in the mainstream masala commercial space, a film called Mulk, featuring Rishi Kapoor, Tapsi Pannu, and a couple of eminent actors who portrayed admirably the predicament faced by the Muslim minority in the given context in India. The question raised by the advocate in Mulk, played by Tapsi Pannu, actually keeps and hammers in your heart the whole divide which is questioned, a whole divide of us and them. When did we become us and them? Is a question I ask myself today, and I ask you also, ladies and gentlemen. Find out that difference, find out that distinction between us and them. For centuries, we have lived in harmony despite what has happened at the top of the administration. The average Hindu and the average Muslim lived in perfect harmony for centuries. Kabir, the Hindu Muslim common figure who actually represented the ideal form of secularism in the 15th century, still remains one of the most notable poet saints of entire Indian history and civilization. It is Kabir's thoughts that we need to evoke in moments of crisis such as these, the moments where we live, where the Hindus are still belligerently striking poses and the Muslims are calming down or revolting with another sense of massacre, a sense of terrorist out display and outbursts. That is something which we need to take a serious look at. What do you think about this? Do you think the time is right for you to actually become the differentiator and change the environment? It is all up to you. It is a very simple matter. You just need to cleanse your heart and look at the whole thing objectively from a distance. Don't get into the whole basis of us and them. stage here in India during India-Pakistan matches and celebrating the victory of Pakistanis. That is only a minority, very few of the population who does it. The majority of population of Muslims still support India in any cricketing event. That is the truth. That is the truth you must carry truly in your heart, and it is with that truth you actually observe humanity and the context of a secular democracy in which we are a part of, such an active part of. Thankfully, the belligerent BJP has reduced and downplayed its volume in the time of this pandemic crisis. It is this time which is the ideal time to actually go back and seek to find answers to those fundamental questions that I pose for you at this point of time. The difference between us and them. Do see Mulk, for you will be initiated into this very interesting conversation that the advocate has in the climax of the film. Not a regular masala film climax, but a climax that engages and questions you again and again about what constitutes the true fabric of Indian society. That is what I leave you with. Please think about it and do post your comments about it. I shall say goodbye and have a wonderful day ahead.